Hello. In this video, we will be demonstrating how to use the new WCS payment request form that will be used to submit vendor invoices, employee reimbursements, and other payments to be made on behalf of WCS to the Accounts Payable Unit here at WCS New York. The payment request form is an Excel spreadsheet, so let's open it up and take a look. The first thing you will see is the Instructions tab and a message saying be sure to enable macros every time you open this spreadsheet. Only save the spreadsheet in a .xlsm format. That's because the spreadsheet has embedded in it several macros that enable you to complete the form more easily, upload information and back supporting documentation, and to send the form to the appropriate departments for review and approval and processing. The form won't work unless you enable macros. Here in the upper left hand corner is a security warning: macros have been disabled. Click on Options and enable this content, and this will enable the macros embedded in the spreadsheet. The Instructions tab here has several sets of instructions. Instructions on how to complete the request, on how to approve the request, how to add or update banking instructions for your vendors or employees, and expense report, how to use the expense report tab here in the spreadsheet. There are also links to videos just like this one that will help you learn how to use the form. The payment request form has several tabs. Page 1 and page 2 are the actual payment request form. You will only use page 2, the supplemental data page, if you've completely used up this general ledger accounting information section and clicked on the check if continued on payment request supplement. You'll see it says see next page. Otherwise, you may never use it. On the PDF backup tab, you will insert into the spreadsheet PDF scans of your invoices or contracts or grant agreements right into the spreadsheet for further review by those approving or processing your payment. The Expense Report tab allows you to input your expenses and easily summarize in different categories the types of expenses you've had for later input into this section here, the General Ledger Account Information section. There are also EFT forms for employees and vendors, and a tab for information for updating banking instructions for payments that must be made overseas. There's a Restricted Transactions tab, which summarizes the rules and regulations that prohibit transactions and payments to certain individuals or countries overseas. It's important that you at least read this and become familiar with it. There's an Upload tab that's for use only by accounts payable. So let's look at the payment request form. It has several sections. A section where you'll input information about the vendor and the invoice being paid. A section where you'll input the SAP accounting information for where these expenses should be booked. A section where you'll attest to and review that you know you're not sending this payment to a restricted individual, and a place where you'll put in your signature or approvals and send it along. Here are buttons that will help you add and upload information and email your forms to different locations. So let's take a look. We will now fill the form out for a invoice that needs to be paid. You'll start off by inputting the name of your vendor and the vendor number. It is important to put in the vendor number because it will help expedite your payment. Don't rely on the accounts payable department to put it in. They may send back your payment request form if it does not include the vendor number. Vendor numbers are important because many vendors have different locations. They may have an office in New York, but the payment needs to go to a payment processing center in another state. You may have an entity like the Nature Conservancy that has many offices across the United States that are working on different conservation projects, and we need to make sure that the payment goes to the right location. You may also have entities overseas that have different branch offices or different bank accounts. To look up the vendor number, click on the Look Up Vendor Number link. It will open up your browser, connect to the WCS portal, and bring up the Vendor Data Master Report. You must be connected to the WCS network in order for that link to work. I will put in a keyword from my vendor, and here is my vendor, Premier Global Services. Its vendor number is 700-455. 700-455. Let's talk about vendors for another minute or two. So as I said, it's important to know the vendor number you're using because many vendors may have multiple locations. If I do type in the Nature Conservancy, you'll see that there are 19 different Nature Conservancy offices that WCS has a relationship with. Some of them are in different countries, some of them are in different states across the United States. If you want to make sure that your payment is going to the Nature Conservancy office in Portland, Oregon, you need to make sure you use the vendor number 700-285, or else that payment will be going somewhere else and they will be left wondering where your payment went. Likewise, we have some institutions overseas that have different bank accounts. Zoological Society of London. If I call up the Zoological Society of London, they have 3 vendor numbers, 2 of them in London, 1 of them in Indonesia. And you'll see here we've marked these 2 vendors with different bank accounts. It says wire X4111. That means this will initiate a wire payment to a bank account ending in 411, and this will initiate a wire payment to a bank account ending in 7241. So when you are sending a payment somewhere, especially a wire overseas, make sure you look up the vendor, and if there are more than one, you are noting which account number you're sending it to. Otherwise, your wire will go to the wrong location. We've looked at vendors and you've seen all the address information. I'll just note that if you look up employees, you will not see their information. Employees are in the 500 series, and we do not display private information, address information for people in the 500 series to protect your privacy. Let's go back to the payment request form. Here we're going to input our invoice number, our invoice date, and our invoice amount. If your invoice is in a foreign currency, input it as a foreign currency invoice. Change the currency here. SAP is a multi-currency system and it will accept foreign currency invoices. It will let us know to pay that invoice in foreign currencies. Do not try to convert your foreign currency invoices into US dollars. That doesn't make sense because then we'll send US dollars overseas and then the bank overseas will convert them into the local currency, and your vendor or consultant will lose money on the exchange. Here under the reasons for expenditure, you are restricted to 32 characters. This is Premier Global Services. It is a phone conferencing service, so I'll just put in phone conferencing accounting. It's restricted to 32 characters because when this information is uploaded into SAP, on the budget reports there is a field that will show this reason for expenditure, and it's restricted to 32 characters. But by inputting it here and uploading it into SAP, people who are reading budget reports will know what this expense was for. Here under special instructions is an opportunity for you to let us know if there's special processing required. If it's a contract agreement and payment of 40% is due upon signing, well then you might input here initial deposit, pay immediately. And that is because most invoices have terms, payment terms. WCS, our default payment terms, is to pay invoices 45 days after the invoice date. If you need something paid immediately, you need to mark it as pay immediately, and we will look into it and see what we can do. putting in our account information here and our amount. Oh, one note. You see here at the bottom says error incorrect math. That's because the spreadsheet will try to test and make sure that whatever you put in here, the sum of the accounting information you input matches the total up here. So the second I put in the amount here, the message goes away. If you have grant information, put in the grant number. An activity code will help the grants unit report on the expenses paid by that grant, so be sure to put in the proper accounting information here. If you are, on the other hand, are making a funding transfer, a cash transfer to a WCS branch, you would be putting in a GL account of 14402. And what you'll see here is this box pops up here. Let's just put in $100,000. Yes, incorrect math. Fine. Why did this box come up? Because if we were just paying by check or EFT, no bank fees are involved. If we're paying by wire, we have a note here: a charge to cover WCS bank fees will be applied by accounts payable to all payments sent by wire. Well, we will go and charge the cost center or the fund that is listed up here for that wire fee. In the case of advances to WCS branch offices overseas, well, that is a balance sheet account. There is no cost center information. It's not an expense account. So therefore, you need to put in the fund or the fund in the grant, or the business area in the fund that will be paying the wire fee. The fee is nominal, but it is important that you recognize that there will be fees associated with wires to overseas locations. Here in this section we have a review of, for OFAC and a U.S. Patriot Act review information. So we cannot send payments to certain countries, Cuba, Iran, Sudan, North Korea, by order of the U.S. Treasury. There are also some certain individuals in certain countries that you also cannot send wires to. More information about this is on the Restricted Transactions tab. I suggest you read it and become familiar with it. And then afterwards, in almost most of your instances, you'll be able to click these three boxes saying, I have read the restrictions tab, I have checked the payment recipient and the beneficiary against restricted lists, and this payment does not involve sanctioned country or national thereof. When you do that and click those three, this message down here goes away. OFAC review is incomplete, the payment will not be accepted. If this message appears, accounts payable will not be processing your payment and will be sending it back. If, on the other hand, you're sending a wire to a branch office or to a payment to a WCS employee, you do not need to go through the OFAC review. You can just click on that. But in most instances, you will be checking those three boxes. Now, the U.S. Patriot Act is designed to prevent WCS from sending wires to terrorist organizations or to terrorist individuals. Now, the purchasing department does checks on all our vendors annually and on all new vendors. However, we do ask that anyone that is sending a payment to an overseas vendor or an individual must include a LexisNexis Bridger report. People in global conservation are familiar with Bridger reports and know how to run them. If you don't know how to run a Bridger report, contact the purchasing department and they will be glad to run the Bridger report for you. The Bridger report should be attached as part of your PDF backup. Again, that is only for transactions that are being sent overseas. Let's look. We've got all our accounting information. Everything looks good. We need to add our PDF backup. I have a copy of an invoice that we will upload into the spreadsheet. Click on the Add PDF, and here in my demo directory we have the invoice. It has now appeared here. If you double click on it, you'll see it displays with the cross-hatched lines, and that's because it's telling you that the document has opened in Adobe Acrobat Reader. So here it is in Adobe Reader, and then here it is in the spreadsheet. When I close the document here, the hash lines go away. That's fine. But it's important, you need to upload all the necessary supporting documentation. If you have additional documents like a grant agreement or a contract, you can click on this button here and it will add the document down here. So you can add multiple documents. It's important that all the documents required for review of this payment request be attached. Now I'm completing it. I've reviewed it. It looks good. And I'm inputting my name. I'm going to save the file. Now you can see our default name was the name of the template, which was payment request in version April 8th, 2016. Over here you'll see the form version April 8th, 2016 right here. We will continue to release new versions of the form as time progresses and embellishments can be made. And this is one quick way to check which version of the form you are using. Now I'm going to save the form. When I click on Save the Form, a box pops up. If Excel prompts you to save as the file, be sure to do so. We added this prompt because some people were suspicious about saving documents to their computer. You know, there are instances where viruses try to save to your PC. This is a WCS approved document, so be sure to click OK anytime you see a save or save as prompt. You'll see that the name of the file has changed. It's now payment request, the name of the vendor, the invoice number, and the invoice date. This is a unique key index that prevents accounts payable from mixing it up with any other payment requests that they might get. Now I'm going to send it for departmental review. In this instance, you click on it, the prompt comes up, you'll say okay, I will save it. Because I just saved it before, it wants to do another save as. Do I want to replace it? Yes, I do, because I wanted to save the version with my signature on it. Click on yes. Up comes an email. Now we use Outlook here, but it may come up using your default email software on your computer. Type in the name of your supervisor. In this instance, I will send it to myself for the demo. It says subject payment request review required, and then the name of the vendor, the invoice number, and the invoice date. Attached is the same spreadsheet that we have back here. And it will send some instructions to your supervisor saying please review and approve this payment request. When opening the spreadsheet, enable macros or else things won't work. Supporting documentation can be found on the PDF backup tab. Afterwards, please sign it and press the send button to send it to the appropriate department. If you need more information, click on this link to go and view how to approve payment requests. And that's it. You'll send it off and it will go to your supervisor for review and approval. And that's that. That ends our demo with respect to completing this form. We have other demos about how to approve payment requests and how to use other aspects of this form. You can find those all at the WCS Treasury channel at YouTube. Thank you very much.